Alright, so for this video, and I know it may sound like I'm taking a piss, but I'm being genuine when I say this. I searched up VTuber drama on the Twitter search bar, and this tweet popped up on my feed. This tweet was posted on August 22nd, so it's relatively recently, being made by Sirna Thorn Princess, saying this: "We're tired of EvilToaster's behind-the-scenes behavior going unchecked and allowing them to mistreat women while still benefiting from his position as a Twitch ambassador / status in the VTuber community." Now, I'm being dead honest when I say this. I don't even know who EvilToaster is. But now I do, in the most unfortunate way possible, for him being a master manipulator. The Google document that we're going to be seeing has a total of 59 pages. So this is 59 pages of allegations that he's going to be responding. But as I saw one of the screenshots, he did respond on a Discord. But with the amount of evidence being provided on this Google doc, it's not saving him and is most definitely ruining his reputation. Now, in the sense that this is going to be a pretty long video, I'm predicting this is going to be like 50 minutes or 59 minutes, but that depends on how long it's going to take me to read every single page on the Google document. So strap in, prepare yourself, because this is going to be a hefty one. It starts off by saying the many stories of those manipulated, hurt, and cornered by EvilToaster, his constant, overbearing, and unwanted intimate behavior towards others, his forceful entry past boundaries, and more. Disclaimer: the following document was not made to incite harassment or harm to anyone involved. Rather, its purpose is to highlight EvilToaster's repeated behavior of controlling others, disregarding, and overstepping boundaries, dismissing valid criticism, and generally preying on women within content creation. We want to bring awareness to his repeated behavior to help others who may have experienced this and not realize his manipulation, prevent more people from falling victims to him, and keep a public account of all experiences. While most of the people in this document are women and femme presenting, we also want to note that man/masculine presented people have also been affected that are not in this document, probably many more that have not yet spoken to me publicly. Just from reading the beginning of how this is going to be structured, I just know this is going to be like a P. Diddy level of a Google document to expose EvilToaster. And again, this is the most unfortunate way to find out who this person is, being a Twitch ambassador and a master manipulator. Power dynamics. What's most important to keep in mind while reading through this document is the power imbalance between the Toaster and the women they interact with. In the content creation space, EvilToaster is connected to a lot of public figures who have numbers backing them. Beyond that, these public figures are incredibly respected within the community. People rarely speak out about how Toaster acts behind the scenes because they do not want to bump bridges with people associated with him. But people have spoken out. EvilToaster purposely ignores any and all drama so as to not call attention to it. However, behind the scenes, he consistently badmouths people that he feels wronged them to said high-profile content creators. This is widely known behind the scenes, so people have valid reasoning for thinking they would be obstructed by a good portion of the VTubing community if they ever spoke out about his actions. If people are scared to even speak out against Toaster, it's not difficult to understand why people give him the benefit of the doubt and let him push boundaries that they normally would not. I hope this helps people understand why this document is necessary and how he is harming the VTuber community as a whole. Twitch ambassador situation. EvilToaster is currently under scrutiny for belittling other content creators for disagreeing with his proposed Twitch feature knock and ignoring other people's rightful criticism, going so far as to mock the situation in his Twitch title when he went live the following day. As of writing this, there is still no mention of the backlash he's faced or an apology for his original remarks anywhere. This is a public presentation of his typical behavior to dismiss people's feelings and problems with him, as well as never taking accountability for his actions/words. My personal experience. I'm including my personal experience with EvilToaster because I want people to know I am not imperial when it comes to EvilToaster. Twitch ambassador situation is a completely separate incident, and I would have commented on anyone's demeaning words towards a community they're meant to represent, but it also further proved to me that EvilToaster will never take accountability for what he's done behind closed doors if he won't ever do it for a public instance. This tweet being made by him says, every convention is another reminder that I'm not one of the girlies, and I'm never going to get the kind of treatment and affection they give each other even though I try to connect with them. I've gotten better at dealing with that fact over time, but it still hurts to think about it. Now, this Discord message that is pretty small, but it's okay, I'm going to read it since I have eyes. It says, I know what you mean, and I'm glad for that. Honestly, I think I do good in trying to be like that, and I'm not escaping the man class, quote unquote, position anytime soon, so it's still important that I be better for that. But no matter what I always am, just going to notice the small kind of ways people I want to be closer to close me off because of how I'm perceived by them or by society, which is just gonna make me think more about how things would be different otherwise, who I would be closer to, who would let me tell them more of my feelings, who would let me touch them. which is highlighted in red. There's so many instances of this just seeing in front of me through my whole life where people I'm generally good friends with will stop me at a point where they let women they know less go past, which is also highlighted in red. I can't really hate anyone for it though, I just hate the game, but who doesn't? He also expressed this sentiment to me many times at the beginning of our friendship, as you can see above. He desperately wanted intimacy with women, which he framed as casually saying quote unquote I love you, calling people wife, and generally wholesome flirting. This turns out not to be true, which you can read in the entirety of this document. Even in the screenshot above, he says, who would let me touch them? I also want to point out that Toaster understands that they're seen as a man and have, as they call it, a man class position. He likes to say he's aware of this, but then continues to pressure women despite knowing he's not quote unquote one of the girlies, and frankly, it isn't because of his gender or his perceived gender, but because of how he constantly pushes boundaries and makes people, mostly women, uncomfortable. As a flirtatious person, I was fine with flirting with him casually. However, I was in a relationship and I told him that if I thought or my boyfriend thought anything was too far, I would put a stop to it. Toaster responded, picture below. This VTuber going by the name of CC says, lol, what do you mean? EvilToaster says, if we get too close and you wanted more, we'd both had to deny ourselves something we'd want to explore. CC says, yes, and I'm capable of doing that. A crush is just a crush, and anything more is easy to seize because compared to the relationship I have now, there's no reason to want another when it jeopardizes this one. I see. Cece says, what are you thinking? EvilToaster says, I'm just thinking it would be a shame if it came to a point where we had to hold ourselves back is all. So far, I don't feel like I've had to hold back anything, which has been an incredibly great and refreshing feeling for a new friend, so I value that a lot. I value you a lot for that. It's just comfortable. Hope you can still value me despite the potential need to deny yourself something and condition yourself. EvilToaster says, I value you even as just a fellow content creator, yes. But the connection beyond that so far is very unique to me, so it's hard to not want to explore, which is why I ask things like that. But I'm not gonna do anything you don't want me to or anything, and I'm getting so much from you already the way things are, so it's not like I'm dissatisfied or anything. I clearly set a boundary here, and Toaster says we'd both have to deny ourselves something we'd want to explore, but I literally say it's easy to seize because there's no reason to want another person or relationship. I wanted to let Toaster know I really admire his intelligence and kindness, and while he saw this friend crush as something more than it was, I still expressed to him that I did not want him in any way. I just used that term with a lot of my friends as a way to express admiration. Later on, I expressed to him how men in the past have left me as a friend because they know they won't get any more out of me. He says he won't, but then says, while again, I'm fine with not going past any boundaries you decide for how close we should be, I do also hope that you don't end up in a situation where you want to be closer, but either feel like you can or are forced not to. I'm not sure how likely that would be or how likely we'd even get to that level in the first place, but I just wouldn't want you to be in a situation where you felt like you had to hold back. Holding back feels hard sometimes, I guess. Even I still feel like I had to, but I'm obviously not holding back as much as I have in the past with others, thank God. I just want to have what you want, whatever that is or will be, and I just fear from what you've talked about that there's a possible outcome where you'd be told to distance from me and neither of us may want it. I wouldn't leave you if that happened, of course, but it would be sad. While he assures me it's fine, he flips onto me again and says, it would be sad if I had to further set boundaries, but of course this is for my sake and not his. So essentially what I'm getting at is that he's a simp, okay? He's trying his best to like catch the bag and secure it, but then again that it's being denied in the most respectful way possible and still pushing it to see if he'll get a chance, which then again is a more of a loser move than accepting rejection. And for me being single, I shouldn't even be saying this, but in the sense that common sense really isn't a strong suit, it's best to understand that they're not into you, but then if you keep pushing the boundaries, they gotta step it up and be dead serious on you, and then you're surprised on why they feel that type of way. Talking about others, pushing boundaries is typical of Toaster. Further on into our relationship, I brought up how comfortable I was with the way he talked about women. Some names are omitted for anonymity. She says, I think the way he talk about women bothers me. What? Why? Where? I don't like how you spoke about Milky or she felt emotional slash attached towards you. What part of that? Then you talk about Kisa and made a comment about her incapacity to say no to other people, which came off bitter to me. With three question marks, he said, why did that come off as bitter? She says, because you said she was too popular for you to hang out, so it was hard to make time for her. Evidence proofing he said this about Kisa. She says, I think you're looking for romantic relationships rather than platonic ones, or maybe you're feeling the need for close platonic relationships like a best friend. He says, I hardly even have baseline level platonic friendships, save a few people. And all these people have massively less time for me than I have for them. She says, I'm not sure how to help. I don't think there's a way to help. I think therapy would be good once you move out and you're on your own. I already called my therapist. What did they say? 20th probably next week. Good. I might be able to hang out with Kisa tomorrow afternoon, assuming no one snatches her up for anything. Are you talking about me specifically, LOL? Well, funny coincidence since that happened like 3 times. No, actually trying to schedule anything with her is hard because she's so popular and I don't think she's the type to say no, which is concerning in itself. As for a Milky experience, Toaster talked to me about her and him becoming intimate, although the way he had portrayed their intimacy differed greatly from what was actually occurring. Toaster had mentioned having the possibility of a quote-unquote relationship with Milky and becoming more intimate. However, Milky had only ever expressed friendship and the platonic intimacy that comes from that. Any emotional attachment was strictly platonic and all mentions of a relationship were simply those of friendship. She had never encouraged or communicated to Toaster that it would be anything more than a friendship. The way he portrayed his dynamic with Milky was grossly misrepresented and instead was expressed in a very different light than how it actually was. He says, I would have played today, but I was showering with Milky. And then she says, you were what? We showered at the same time while on call and talked in the shower. I'm praying for you. Lol, praying for what? Just in general. I'm more worried for her now than myself personally. Yeah, she admits she's attached to me and is kind of upset about that fact because she doesn't like being vulnerable, but I don't mind it right now. Toaster often talked about Milky and how much comfort and intimacy she brought him, but how it made him defensive because he wasn't used to it. Despite this, he was still fine for it to continue and often express how nice it was for him to enjoy what Milky gave him, all without returning her quote-unquote feelings and knowing it was hurting her to be more attached than he was. I later learned that this was misrepresenting what happened between them. The shower call was just voice, no cam. It's clear that Toaster wanted a more sexual intimacy with Milky, which you can see later in Milky's experience. What he said about Milky and Kisa, both people he was romantically interested in, I started to feel weird about it and confronted him. EvilToaster says, thank you. Okay, so for me, it read as something that didn't really fit my perception of you. I get that. And then it says, I felt that when you were saying something that you had no intention behind, it came off to me as if there was more other those words because in my past, a lot of people have had those secondary meanings and I'm not someone who usually judges anyone at all for more surface level behaviors because they just don't even come up on my radar. And I've never understood why people are judgmental over weird minute things like that. And then he goes on to say, I understand that I feel the same really. I never really use people's non-harmful behaviors as a problem of inconvenience. It's just part of who they are. They come up on my radar and not as something to judge them for or distance myself from them over, but just as part of knowing them and adding it to the pile of things I noticed about them. So for you, my friend Toaster, to seemingly suddenly or suddenly make those comments, I felt very weird and I think it was all in frame of reference to you branching out to Milky in a more intimate way. And that's why I had to relationship lens on it, because I felt like you were researching our partners. It makes sense why you were worried about me at that time in regards of Milky. I was fully aware going into the connection with Milky that there were circumstances from both our lives that would have some influence over how we approach each other, and I took the initiative to make that very open and clear from both our ends to ensure nothing too silly would happen. And I think her and I are in a healthy position now because of that. I did go into it thinking thinking there was a possible outcome of her and I progressing to a relationship status, but I didn't consider it high likelihood or something that I was going to pursue at all costs. It was just that the thought that it was possible and being aware of it in combination with knowing how both her and I were approaching each other given our circumstances, helping ensuring that our conversations were healthier and helped me know what to communicate. The coded writing here is him copy pasting what I've said to him and responding to it. Even here, it's clear that Toaster has intentions when getting close to women. He says there was a possible outcome of her and I was progressing to a relationship status. A lot of the time, Toaster will go back and forth between never expecting anything from women and a few moments later will admit that he does have expectations. This, coupled with the fact that he openly admits that he didn't mind Milky being attached to him and not reciprocated, was a huge red flag to me. It felt like he was using Milky. This is all from limited knowledge, as I didn't ask Milky about any of this at the time since it was her business and I didn't want her to feel like Toaster was talking about her behind her back or I was judging her from being with Toaster. However, the reality of the situation is vastly different from how Toaster depicts it to me, which you can read in Milky's account. One thing that I think sparked a reaction in me was you saying trouble saying no to anyone about Kisa, because for me, anyone saying that about a woman is like makes me take a step back because I feel like that's a very womanly struggle, and for someone to comment on it, it felt very personal. I know you didn't mean it like that, but it definitely gripped at something in me when I was like, whoa, it just felt changed. But I think that's my own anger towards the socialization that leads women to placidity, and for someone who has the societal presence of a man commenting on it in what came off as a frustrated tone. I definitely felt my chest puff out and I got defensive. I understand well that is a struggle for women, and even Kisa's history, it is likely something she deals with very often. When I commented on it and even just observe it to myself, it was from a point of empathy. However, in the context of the conversation with you, I brought it up as a point that it makes it difficult to find more time with her and how that frustrated me. It didn't frustrate me as something personal from her against me, but more so because it was adding onto a pile of connections I have with people where their life circumstances neither of us have control over have kept us apart. You're totally right to feel angry about it. You know, the subjugation of women and all that, and it's not up to me to decide what the effects of that trigger response from you. The frustration tone you heard from me was the same frustration you have about it. Because I understand why it happens and I'm angry about it too, while that specific societal dynamic doesn't affect me directly, it does affect the people I care about, makes connecting with each other harder for both parties. EvilToaster typically psychoanalyzes people without them ever consenting to this or desiring it. I was incredibly upset that he talked about Kisa in this way because as a woman, the notion that we quote unquote have a hard time saying no to people is honestly true. But Toaster should have respected that instead of commenting on it out of frustration that she was saying no to him. Whether or not this was true of Kisa, I wasn't particularly close to her at this time, but I also knew Toaster wasn't, so it felt disrespectful for him to say that about her, even as an objective observation as he liked to put it. While Toaster did try to resolve this issue and I originally accepted his stance, looking back on it, it still doesn't sit right with me. Despite Toaster noting that Kisa, according to him, had problems saying no to people, he continued to pressure her to hang out with him. The following is Kisa's experience with Toaster and how she felt about him and the way he treated her. Kisa's experience. Toaster started talking to me more often after finding out about the relationship I left, and I thought that was a little weird, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt that he's just trying to be nice since I was going through a hard time. After talking for a bit about what I had gone through, he also shares experience with similar past relationship issues, so I just thought he would understand how I was feeling because of the issues he went through too. I trusted that he was just being a good friend because he would listen to my venting and offer reassurance about things I was worried about from what I was used to with my ex. I have never really had many friends because my ex would get upset with me if I did, so my social anxiety only got worse from those 8 years. Because of my social anxiety, I tend to worry that everyone hates me and finds me boring, or like they feel pity for me and feel obligated to chat with me. Thus, I would not hang out with people much, and when people would want to hang out or plan collabs, I would get really shy/nervous, typically find an excuse to not do it. Toaster had quickly started to want to hang out by playing a game together or just voice chat, and that made me uncomfortable given what I wasn't used to, and that he only started only chatting with me more after I got out of my past relationship. I felt like it would be mean to just say that I'm not comfortable with it, so I would just make up an excuse whenever he would ask until I felt overwhelmed by how often he would keep asking that I just played with him once to not feel so guilty anymore. I would tell him that I was busy a lot, but that never stopped him from asking. Then one day, I guess he just got fed up with me not playing with him, that he sent me that long message about how he's trusting me, quote unquote, to just reach out to him, and that he's using the little amount of energy that he has to keep up with me and chat slash plan things to do. And that long message just really didn't sit right with me because my narcissistic ex would say similar things that would make me feel guilty if I don't do something he's asking of me. I then explained to him how what he said was not okay and how it made me feel, to which he apologized, but it didn't feel genuine and like he was only saying it because he didn't want me to stop talking to him. From then on, I didn't enjoy conversing with him, and we didn't talk much after that happened. Throughout the whole time of talking with him, I had always felt like he wanted more than just a friendship out of it, and the regular comments he left on Twitter, all my selfies and comments he made about my voice made me uncomfortable. Screenshot showing interest and EvilToaster saying thank you. I will let you know ASAP if there's anything to worry about. Kisa is very nice though. I'm gonna try to hang out with her more and help her get acquainted. She's in a similar situation I was in with my ex, where she never had a lot of room to make friends, but now could really use some, but has no frame of reference for what good friends and relationships are, you know? And then CC says, yeah, she is super sweet. I'm excited to see her around more. Evil Toaster says, did you just see the selfie she just posted? She said, oh yeah, I saw, cried, screamed. And this was a pretty creepy with him saying, Kisa, tell me more fun facts about you. And then he says, the dress is so pretty. Though depending on if that's the only window of time you think you'll have, I can cut it shorter, assuming you don't have time now. Kisa says, no, I don't want you to cut your stream shorter for me. I just finished exercising and taking the photos. I'm sorry. He says, what if I want to? And Kisa says, I would feel bad if I couldn't make the time somehow if you canceled for me. Evil also says, I'm catching up listening to your ASMR stream. What the fuck? And you did very good. Your voice is perfect. He says, sounds good. We'll find some time. I also saw your singing voice. You sing very well. Pushing boundaries with Kisa. He says, turns out I ended early anyway, just cause I could see the extra time off. Kisa says, oh nice, did you want to play Valorant with me? If not, that's okay. You can relax too. Evil Toaster says, yeah, let me hear back from Zen if she wants to play Apex, but I don't think I'm ranking today, but maybe she's up for pub trios and you can come join. If not, I'll play Valorant. If you're feeling like playing with Zen, that is otherwise, yeah, I'll log into Valorant. Issa says, I unfortunately don't have Apex on my little bro's PC, and the internet is a bit slow here, so the download would take a bit. But you and Zen can play Apex. And Evil Toaster says, logging into Valorant then. He says, I checked your mutual friends to see who I could invite for collabs later, and it's just Cece. I guess I'll plan for that sometime in the future. She says, yeah, I don't have too many Twitter peeps on Discord. Goes on to say, would you like to game in a bit before you have to go set up for the show? She says, I'm sorry, I'm probably just gonna relax before stream since I get super nervous about the timing of things, lol. At this point, this guy just wants somebody to be in his life because he's lonely and stuff and just wants to be more than friends and all. Like, the level of simp activity is the equivalent of the cameraman from Megamind. I mean, I don't know what his real name is, but I know that his name is Titan because that's a superhero name and supervillain name, let's just be honest. If you've seen the movie, you will know what I'm talking about, but then again, this is just, like, if they say no, how can you not take that as an answer? All right. And if you're pushing it too far, all right, no wonder that there's a 59-page document just describing you not only as a Twitch ambassador, but also a person that cannot be trusted within the VTuber space, especially for the female gender. I'm going to sleep. We hang out in the afternoon? Yes. She says, I'm sorry. I think I'll probably be streaming this afternoon. And then here's the emoji, which I guess is just stale face. And then he says, when you say afternoon, what time do you mean? She says, at 7 p.m. EST, and before then, I'll be exercising, getting some work done, crying emoji, with the still face again. I know that this is labeled pushing boundaries with Kisa and with every other VTuber that's being mentioned in this document, but why are you so horny for a collab, let alone for a relationship because this is telling in a subliminal manner. He says, "Are you gaming capable tonight?" She says, "I'm glad. You have a good turnout. Currently playing with a friend who is in need of someone to vent at the moment. I'm sorry." He says, "That's okay. I hope it is going well. Are you doing anything tomorrow afternoon?" And when I say afternoon, I mean like from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. range. He says, "I'll mostly be working on stuff and hanging out with some friends, and later in the day, I have a collab. Okay, when is your next availability?" She responds with the sad cat emoji saying, "I'm not sure because I want to stream again this week, but I haven't planned it out yet." Eventually, Kisa tried to stop him from initiating hangouts and told him she'd be the one to approach him. He immediately doubts this will happen, but goes beyond and he says this, "I mean, it doesn't gotta be this week." Kisa says, but I get super nervous planning things." He says, "I understand. Is there something I could do or some other way to go about it that you prefer? I know you said you just keep checking up, but it seems you aren't left with a lot of free time right now. I don't want to stress you out. What if I'm the one who plans it? Does that make it easier instead of asking you when the best time is?" She did say, "I feel like it would be the least stressful if I just approach you whenever I'm able to play. Will you do that?" With the happy frog emoji, says the following picture below. With this long text saying, "Okay, I'm letting you know I am putting a lot of trust in you for that. Not to make it more stressful," with the wide frog emoji. But as I wrote about on Twitter yesterday, I'm dealing with the increasingly smaller ratio of people I know to people who actually reach out to me and ask me to do things and connect, which means I just have limited energy remaining to do all the work if scheduling and organizing and just keeping up with everyone, because frankly, not many people message me on any given day, which also is big because you're one of the people I am spending that energy for right now to keep up with you and chat and find time to do things. So frankly, if you just want to come to me to moment you have time, that actually be better for both of us. Just surprising to me because no one really does that for me, so sitting frog emoji. I'm both excited for that, but also worried if that'll actually happen. But you don't seem like one to just like not do a thing they'd say they do. So yeah, just keep me updated. And it seems we're both staying up to like 6 a.m. lately, so don't be afraid to poke me this later either. Mind you, that this was posted on March 23rd, 2023, 6:38 a.m. This is putting an immense amount of pressure on someone who Toaster believes has a hard time saying no to begin with. So why is Toaster pushing these boundaries on someone he thinks is vulnerable to people pleasing, quote unquote? Psychoanalyzing others with or without their consent. This ties into overstepping boundaries. Toaster has an affinity for judging others. He explains that it's his way of observing, but the assumptions he makes about these or about observations can be harmful to others. Whereas Toaster often diagnoses people with neurodivergent disorders like ADHD and autism without their consent and pressures them to identify with these descriptors. Beyond this, he also talks about people most likely having these disorders with other people. He says, "Yeah, blank wants to take me up on VOD reviews though, so finally someone at least." CC says, "That's sweet." He says, "I don't know how well it would go though. She's not a very inquisitive person I am sensing. You might be surprised." He says, "I'm already helped fix her OBS setup and she asked me 0 questions. And every time I checked to make sure she understood because she would say, or okay, she was like, no, I don't understand. I think most people are like that, but I notice it because when people actually seek out understanding it says a lot about them," with a sitting frog emoji. This was about a good friend of mine. While I understood Toaster didn't mean this with ill intent, it still rubbed me the wrong way because I didn't like that he was insinuating that people who ask questions / are curious are better than people who don't. I feel like it was a weird thing to judge them on or judge them in general. I think this relates to how he believes he can judge others and not face consequences. There's a truck passing by, and seen when Kisa and other women have problems saying no to people, and is his lashing out during the Twitch ambassador situation. I'm very sorry that I couldn't read this message that was very small while I was screenshotting this. Again, I do apologize. In the bottom it says, again, he's talking about a woman in a relationship with a friend of mine and is upset she didn't tell him she was going to off Kai. I'm assuming it's another person, another VTuber in that way, and finds it a problem that her boyfriend is insecure about him, and all of this adds up to quote unquote people pleasing for him and not valid reasons to take distance / protect her relationship. When I was friends with Toaster, one of the first things he talked to me about was neurodivergency and autism. autism. I want to point out that I was still incredibly new to the VTuber scene at this point and was familiar with autism through my younger sister, who is diagnosed. My father also suspected he was on the spectrum. Being new to the scene and not fully understanding how society viewed people with autism, I was pretty excited to talk to someone who seemed to know a lot about it. As we talked more, he started to file things I said or did into his folder of autistic tendencies, and later he introduced me to online tests to see if I was autistic. CC says, "You think I did well being a human and talking to other humans?" EvilToaster says, "Yeah, you did. Do you often examine your ability to appear and interact as a normal human?" Question mark with the detective frog emoji. She says, "If I see something I don't understand, I usually look it up, especially words. I used to stop reading just to look up a word I didn't know because a teacher I admired told us to, and I really loved English." With the detective frog emoji saying, "Serna, do you have ADHD?" Nice. Anyway, you want to take some recommended tests, start here with the link of taking the autism test. I think I was partial to the RADS-R or RADS-R and ASPE quiz, but some of them are a bit more tailored to unique experiences, with a dog emoji saying if you like taking quizzes. I was grateful to him for introducing me to a side of myself I hadn't acknowledged or explored, but I was also naive to believe that this was entirely normal. I like to believe that people with autism weren't distracted by society and that being vocal about being autistic was safe. But that was incredibly naive of me. I thought Toaster was helping myself and others by bringing up their potential neurodivergency, but now I see doing so without consent and publicly is dangerous and disrespectful. I deeply regret and apologize for my ignorance on this. Here are instances where Toaster has spoken about people being neurodivergent to me or others. And you're doing great. By the way, blank is totally hot people. Hot people radar off the charts. My favorite tale with this message. Damn, I smacked my PS5 with this message saying, "You want to take the hot people test?" Also, I totally get what you mean by lack. Confused about why she scored low on the hot people test. Whoa, okay. But I think I understand why. There's no way she's neurotypical. Do you know like what she does? Her job? Jesus. This is about Milky, my friend who has never talked to Toaster before about autism/ADHD. I was the one who brought it up to him because she and I took the autism test together. I was surprised she didn't score similar to mine, but I realize now that was problematic of me, and while I was just trying to relate to my friend, I see that I was influenced by Toaster's obsession with autism and neurodivergency, and that I do not need to relate to people through sharing an autism diagnosis the way he needs/wants to. I started to become confused as to why EvilToaster would bring up other people's personal life to me, and why he had to push his thoughts on ADHD/autism onto everyone he met within the community. While at first I thought he was helping me realize a part of myself, I slowly understood that he did this to nearly everyone, and Thunder. And it was more about him finding connections at the expense of others than ever helping people. I was hanging out with Blink. How did it go? Pretty good. She's picking up Apex pretty well. She passed the hot people test, and she started NGE, which I don't know what that is. The following is from a friend who was venting about insecurities, to which Toaster replied, "Well, I have great news for you. Almost all the other VTubers are autistic too." Jesus. Even if he's trying to help or like make them feel safe, this is just the worst way to try and comfort somebody, even when they're insecure about their voice, their body, or anything that's related to them or what they do in a normal day in life. Like, I wouldn't even pick him as my therapist if this is like the certain length he would go to try and make connections or make amends with. The person he's speaking to, Anon 2, does not identify as autistic, and it was incredibly unfair of him to take all that they were venting about, dismiss their feelings, and continue that they were just autistic and they shouldn't worry about it because quote unquote everyone is. Holy shit. The last screenshot is incredibly problematic. Toaster says someone's head is empty. He enforces his own thoughts on what this person should do about a chatter, gets his mind team involved, and then questions why this person isn't loving towards him but is to others. He also openly talks about how this person is autistic to someone else even when the person in question is not diagnosed or identifies with this diagnosis. Apart from autism/ADHD, Toaster also reveals personal information to people that most likely shouldn't be shared. While the person he talks about is okay with this behavior, I feel compelled to talk about it vaguely out of respect for anonymity and privacy because the information is incredibly personal, and if he's talking about this with people he barely knows, Kisa and Anon 1, I can only imagine what personal information he'll share about others or in the future. It is incredibly unsafe, especially in the VTubing community. You can see him talk about it, albeit censored here. I wish I could say that he's changed from 2022, but as his document proves, this is repeated behavior that is still current. Anon's experience, pushing boundaries. This individual wants to say say, "Anonymous, please respect that. EvilToaster collaborated with this person a handful of times, but also wanted to hang out with them alone. They were uncomfortable about this because Toaster was already pushing boundaries, wanted them to open up to him as well as making intimate comments towards them." This screenshot just speaks for itself. I want to take a moment to point out that Toaster says not to say "I'm hot shit" and then says that he is offering something almost no one else in her life is, as he assumes, which is incredibly disrespectful and harmful, because if this person was susceptible to manipulation, this would make them want to let Toaster in, even though they do have a support group outside of them. Toaster spammed this person multiple days in a row, despite knowing they'd be gone and unable to respond. Beyond that, they bring up this person being a quote-unquote people pleaser, which is weird that he understands this, but continues to pressure them and make it incredibly stressful for them to not only hang out with him, but provide sensitive information about trauma and mental health. He also did this with Kisa, as seen above. Unrequired interest. I'm sorry to hear that. There's nothing worse than when you're not really sure where you stand in the relationship and things go unresolved. Crying emoji. Like, it's nice to finally get that closure in a sense, but it doesn't take away from all the hurt you're going to feel still. Next year, I promise to give you so many hugs at a convention. I'm assuming that this entire blanked message is so bad that it's best for us to not read it, with this person's profile and name being censored as well. He said, "I would love to hug and cuddle you at conventions though. Didn't you plan on going to TwitchCon?" The average attitude of a Discord moderator. I mean, there's no other word to describe what's being shown here to us, all right? And I know there are some screenshots about these messages, which I will take to heart. It's just that with this video being half an hour long, and I want to wrap this up quickly, even though this is a very serious situation, and I did do the same thing when I read about it from Bungo Taiga. It's all raps, okay, for this EvilToaster guy being a Twitch ambassador, a master manipulator, and overall a creep in the sense. I couldn't even imagine if I was in this spectrum where, let's just say I was female, or I was a VTuber overall, or I happen to be friends with EvilToaster and not aware of these things that he has done behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of now being exposed. It's a pretty tight space, to say the least. Not this year, unfortunately. I can't afford it, and I want to get back into going to the gym and taking care of myself before next year, and that sucks. It's a really rough situation that she was in. Glad that her intentions weren't malicious or anything, but it still sucks that y'all both had to go through this and not really have the relationship you both wanted. Yeah, and I'm assuming with this message being blurred, it's best to protect our eyes and not risk ourselves seeing this. I was looking forward to meeting you this year, honestly. I will still look forward to it next year or two, though. He then says again, "Would you love to cuddle and tell you how pretty you are and watch the Vadi Armored Core 6 lore video together?" And then she responds by saying, "You wouldn't want to watch that with me." Mind you, that this message was sent on July 19th of this year. Kendrick did the pop-out show of his friends and ending off with him playing Not Like Us 5 times in a row. And well, we know what the blue cross out is for, and it's Toaster telling Anon about someone else's personal information, including their relationship, family situation, and more. It gets worse when you realize that this person brings up hugging him at a convention, which is a totally normal thing people do when meeting each other for the first time after having a friendship online for a while. The first thing Toaster does is escalate this to cuddling. Anon ignores this, so Toaster brings it up again, this time expressing a desire to tell them how pretty they are. So not only is Toaster wanting this person to be vulnerable with them and pressuring them to do so, but they're also obviously interested in them more than a friend and trying to get them alone together. Comes off even weirder with this in mind. A quick reminder that we're not even done reading this. Milky's experience, how it started. In the beginning, EvilToaster are often referred to in our communications as Frog or Forg, and I started as friends with a strange dynamic. When we first met one another, we would regularly play Apex every Sunday with each other and stream together often. We would almost always duo, and on a rare occasion play trios. I had just become a streamer, and Apex was one of my very first video games. I had no idea how to play any games, especially on MNK, and he offered to teach me. I thought that he was a wonderful content creator who valued his community, tried his best to spread awareness and inclusivity, and just happened to have a rough go of things due to his peculiar way of communicating and his poor interpersonal skills. Even though he was quirky, I thought he had pure intentions and was simply trying to become close friends and build bonds of friendship and camaraderie. I'm very sorry with how I worded that out, with me, which I later found out was simply not the case. Expectations. In the beginning, Frog had told me that I was an unusual existence to him. He had mentioned that it was unusual for him to meet someone who was nice to him and affectionate without needing things in return. On our second conversation ever, he told me that while he didn't have a good read on me, he was overly analytical of me from the beginning. He says, okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a great read on you, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you're a person who would appreciate honesty and being upfront, especially since you kind of prompted me to talk about things in our first actual conversation, knowing full well there's a can of worms behind the answer to the how are you question. So I'm taking it that you're someone very interested in people and value connection, communication, and just overall being genuine. Does that sound accurate? Don't take it the wrong way. I get overly analytical towards everyone with the wide frog emoji. Just usually I don't tell them what I'm analyzing until, like, I don't know, a week. He informed me on call and in various ways that he was emotionally distant and would treat me differently than how he treated his other friends. He informed me he was going through traumas and felt socially distant and isolated and was unlikely to be able to properly interact with me while he figured out how to quote unquote connect to people. I'm about to pass out on account of only getting 4 hours of sleep last night, so I finally feel ready to just sleep a lot, but we'll see if that actually happens. I had a good day. The night was rough so far as usual, but I'm okay this moment. Figured I'd let you know. Hope your day is going well. Sorry that I missaid that. I let you know when I wake up. I know you already understand, but I was just thinking more today about how I feel like I'm emotionally jaded at the moment and closed off. I feel bad about it because of how much you seem to already be putting in. I would probably feel so happy and cared for any other time knowing myself, but a part of it just feels so oddly hollow and I don't know why. I'm not sure if I felt that way before. It's not anything on you, and again, I know you get it and that it's not gonna stop you. I just feel like venting about it because it's kind of frustrating. I clearly want to enjoy that kind of care and share the sentiment with you, but I'm just being blocked by things right now. I'm hoping it'll be okay and later I'll be able to feel it the right way. My biggest fear is just knowing that somehow this being the foundation means it'll never be possible. I'm not sure if that's the case. That could happen, but it doesn't seem to matter. Anyways, it's just my thoughts right now for you to have while I sleep harder than I ever have, hopefully. We're like halfway done to being finished to this. He would reiterate how he was unable to treat me like he treated others and how he recognized the way he treated me wasn't what I deserved, but he had no intentions of changing his behavior. And this message being posted on March 29, 2023 says, by Milky, I'll be here for you for whatever you do and however things play out. I care about you and I hope things get better. He responds by saying, I appreciate that. I'm sorry to think you deserve better than even me. Milky says, lol, what does that even mean? He says, like, I think I'm a pretty pog friend. Stupid. But I think you deserve even better. He would continually bring up how he was dealing with various things and that the platonic affection, comfort, and kindness I showed him was desired and appreciated. However, regardless of the joys I brought him, he would still treat me worse than a standard person. Now, the following screenshots have a lot of words in it, but I'm going to describe it pretty briefly. Essentially, it's him being open about his struggles of trying to find a relationship or any form of bond, really, and essentially trauma dumping on Milky to see if she'll ever get a chance, which of course Milky has responded to being with him. I, in my naivety, just wanted to be supportive of him while he was figuring out how to navigate his emotions. He was good friends with my friends, and if they liked him, then I thought at the same time he was surely a good person too when I got to know him. I know the struggles of trying to form genuine connections to people and the difficulties associated with navigating trauma, and at the same time I was alright with him being a little more distant with me while we were new to one another. However, that temporarily distant quickly shifted into him treating me far differently than he initially did. The following screenshots I'm going to be showing you guys is pretty much the same thing, except with a little more detail and a bit more descriptive of how they feel towards each other. Now, in a way, you may feel bad towards this person, but then again, this entire document just shows how this isn't really a person you would trust, and be careful of who you're talking to. Frog has a tendency to evaluate the thoughts and feelings of those expressing a different opinion than his own. In this situation, as so many others, he had complained about feeling like he didn't matter to anyone and that he was just being used by others. There was a VTuber show in which he had a mutual friend and were both on the show, and he felt the people invited to the show weren't actually his friends, and it unfairly balanced the show in his mutual's favor. He expressed that people never reached out to him and how they will talk to him on the show but not privately. I don't know who was on the show or what happened, but like if people want to reach out, they will. We can't make them, and we can't really change how they are. If they only reach out and interact in the public eye or when it's for content, then that's very disingenuous and like putting on a show. Not saying this is exactly the case, but if someone who only talks to you or interacts with you publicly and for the benefit, then usually that means they don't care very much. What? That assessment was something. How's your day? Well, I mean, like, I have problems with that. It's the way I view interactions like that usually. I thankfully don't have those since people want to interact with me, do so not just on streams. Why does my opinions cause problems for you? If they want to, they will perception is self-sabotaging in many ways, for one, and also it's just like not doing justice to other people. But also that was just like a lot to say when you also said you don't know who was on the show or what happened. And I guess it was like kind of examining the dynamic I'm talking about, but from a completely different angle that I wasn't speaking on. I wasn't saying they were only interacting with me for content or publicity, because that definitely was not the case. If it were, they would probably be interacting with me more. It's way more complicated than that. Because it wasn't related to the person, but rather the action, I was just sharing my thoughts on your sentence, but they'll come to a game show for me, but not talk to me, and you asked for me to elaborate. That's all it was. Would you like to say how your day has been? Does the if they want to, they will protection apply to me for you? I find it ironic that he's having trust issues with the people that he's friends with, even though he's the one committing to it himself. I mean, I get it when you're trauma dumping, it's like it is only correct if you're, let's say, forming a bond or you somehow connected to each other or you've been having a hard time trying to keep a smile on. But then when it comes to like conversations that aren't needed, it just leaves off a bad taste with the bond you made. Especially for the case that's been going on for EvilToaster. And it again, I really don't understand what narrative he's trying to push, but it's more of like trying to be manipulative and trying to take advantage. If you want to reach out to me, you will, right? I reach out to you too because I want to. It's how friendship lasts. We mutually communicate. It's always more complicated than that. If I want to, I sometimes won't. So will everyone else. In fact, the majority of people I know right now are people who want to reach out but do not. That's the kind of problem I'm talking about. I'm not really open to discussing my viewpoint on this, but I'll keep it in mind for you. You don't like talking about these things? I seldom do. I'm not really wanting to have a conversation about my opinions on matters right now. It can be really emotionally and mentally taxing having to explain myself. It's just not a thing I enjoy usually. I'm not really talking about it to make any commentary about you specifically. I'm just talking about people, and this particular subject was the subject I was talking about last night. It's a thing I have problems within relating and connecting with people. I'm not saying any of that because I'm attacking your viewpoint. It's just a thing I was talking about. Of course, we don't have to talk about it regardless, but I'm just saying it's not about you specifically. He would constantly tell me about how he had difficulties connected to others, while all the while expressing that his own distance stemmed from a lack of feeling cared for and loved by others. If someone did care for him, it would cause him to grow distant since it confused him. You confuse me, bro. Me? How? You always ask like if I Ian or you can help me or say like you're proud of me or anything and offering me things. Yes, I care about you. Why though? Why though? Why do I care about you, or why do I ask those things?
I ask because I care, and I care because you deserve to be cared for. We met by chance, and it was a happenstance of fate. I originally started interacting with you because you were a friend of my friend, and I think my friends have a great taste, so it was likely we would get along. And after I perceived you, I realized you were a wonderful person whom I enjoy, and I see a great deal of positive traits I admire and respect. And you feel like you feel like you're authentic. I don't know, man. I act on my whims.
I like you, therefore it's just that simple. I figured out the problem here. It feels like the problem is you're not used to people caring about you. I mean, you're not wrong about that statement. I mean, I understand it if you were like treated differently for who you are or how you represent yourself, and you're more confused of like how people are treating you very nicely even though you feel like you don't deserve it. It's best to just like take that as a way of congratulations that you found the right people. But I guess in the sense for EvilToaster, it just doesn't feel right for him. But ironic enough that he wants to feel like he wants to connect to the people he wants to make bonds with, and pushing boundaries, mind you, with what this document said. While struggling to accept platonic, I do stress purely platonic friendship. He would constantly complain about the lack of love and affection in his life and how lonely he was while making often inappropriate comments. He says, "Woo, I'm still in bed. I gotta get up, but I don't wanna yet. You're exhausted. Come nap with me. I have a small headache. I crawled into my bed, but I need to go cook. What should I eat? Peanut butter banana smoothie, or salad and smeared chicken, or tuna? Wait, that all sounds good." Made a call that lasted a couple seconds. Answer, I can't. I miss you. I miss you too, but I gotta get out of bed because you won't get it in. I want you to lay down with me and I can play with your pretty hair. How you feeling? Stressed? What's on your mind? Goals? Goals or girls? Girls, I think I am lonely. He would express his desires to be affectionate with me that I would deflect or ignore. He says, thank you, Lord, you need to thank me ever. Would you come and cuddle and make out with me before I bed? I gotta release oxytocin. She says, is this the right drug? Question mark. Are you expecting? I'm like half aware, so I'm gonna pass out. Good night, cutie. And while this version of oxytocin, there's a different definition, which it says it can cause or strengthen labor contractions during childbirth and control bleeding after childbirth. It can also be used to induce abortion, which is not really the oxytocin he was talking about specifically. It's more of the happy chemical that produces in the brain. It's a hormone with the business frog emoji. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but it seems like you crave love and affection and intimacy in your life. What do you feel like you're doing, or what's different about you to other people that allows them to have it, but you keeps you from having it? Literally no clue, other than being in the right place at the right time, I guess. Other than constantly expressing his desire for love and intimacy, he would also express his perception of how he would continually put himself in situations where he would be expressing negative emotions just to feel the comfort, quote unquote, of it, and wouldn't try to change the situations he would end up in, even if they were hurting others like himself. The picture he sent is from Metal Hellsinger, This Devastation featuring Mad Heathy from Trivium. Another example of him craving more intimacy and love and how cynical this was for him. Do you watch it together sometime, or if you're down to rewatch it? I'm bad at rewatching, so I get if you don't want to. Maybe. It may be weird because I literally just started rewatching it with the woman who just closed me off from romance a few days ago, which caused my current spiral of pain and agony, which now I don't know if we'll continue it or when if we do. He would often discuss his desires for women and his lack of an outlet for expressing his longing and affection. I'm proud of you. Thank you. I wonder how much of the pain is specifically not blank, not having around to be my comfort and outlet of affection, and how much of the pain is just not having any outlet at all. Not to mention the fact of just like having her for a moment and then not. Desire just superseded by another stronger desire after the first was satisfied. The feeling going from not knowing what you wanted before and not having such a painful longing. Then, after experiencing it for a short time, then having to go on longing for more. Even though nothing about these 2 points in time before and after are different, it's just now you had a taste and wanting more makes life harder. This is why them Buddhists don't like all that attachment stuff. Okay. Along with expressing his generalized desires for affection and intimacy with women, he would make mildly suggestive comments about wanting to have more with me. Clip so you won't get spoiled. It says, I had a day filled with talking to some friends about their struggles in their relationships and self-worth. They went really well, and I shared a lot of perspective that made them realize things that helped them stop hating themselves for things that aren't their fault, and how to communicate with their partner in a way that respects themselves and have a healthier relationship. And after that, I was just like, wow, I would be a great partner in a relationship. Sitting frog emoji. After I made a comment about how I appreciate his friendship, he made a suggestive comment insinuating he would be open to almost anything with me, which at the time I thought meant was to be taken in a purely platonic way. However, through the conversation about me and screenshots regarding me and the rest of the document, I should say, I have learned was not his intention. Frog, guess what? What? It's not that you're cute. You are, but it's not it. LOL. I decided something. I decided I love you. You mean a lot to me, and platonically, you're so fucking special and cool, and I adore you. You're fun and capable and smart, and I appreciate so many aspects of you. You make me happy to be around you, and I feel extremely comfortable around you. You're a wonderful person, and I'm happy to have you in my life. I love you, man. I would often reiterate that the affection I showed him was purely platonic and could not be misconstrued in the slightest way. Sorry to get to reply as I was getting ready for bed. It was freaking out over being on time for the event. I'm grateful you feel that way to me through, and I'll do my best to handle how you feel with care and not hurt you and all that. You've always been a refreshing experience to me, and I appreciate many aspects of you as well. I too feel very comfortable with you and would would probably be down for almost anything with you. I think at the current moment, my attention is being pulled in many directions, so I don't know if I can give you the same focus as I may deserve, but I'm sure you're very understanding of that. Yeah, it's no sweat to me. I don't give affection for the sake of receiving it back as it is you know? I'm here to do whatever, lol. I appreciate you and I hope tomorrow gets well, cutie. I'm proud of you. His affection and attitude towards me would shift between being warm and affectionate and making mildly inappropriate remarks towards me to being cold, analytical, and sometimes even downright mean. While the screenshot is not inherently concerning, this was one of my most traumatic interactions with Frog. He was well versed in tech support and would often help his friends with the routing systems and other tech things. I reached out to him to help me and he was horribly condescending. We got into a voice call and he had me share my screen and explain to him what was wrong with my OBS. I'm not tech savvy, and while I struggled to find the words for what was wrong, every time he would express what it could be, like compressional for example, he would have me Google compression and actively read what the definition allowed to him, and then he would ask me if that was what I meant. And if it was, he would then have me try to Google how to fix it, even though I had already elaborated that I had. So we clicked through the guides I had already read, and he had me read them aloud while questioning me in a berating and belittling way. I expressed to him I wasn't aware of how to fix it, and then that this method of me reading aloud what I had already read wasn't helping. He was incredibly condescending and was demeaning to me. He eventually helped me figure out how to adjust the members in OBS after I started crying when he was telling me how easy it was and how I should be able to figure it out. Throughout all this, he was just so horrible to me. I understand that you get frustrated for someone not knowing what this is, but just take it easy on it, all right? To the verge of tears, or I should say already crying and being said on the document, it's just so cruel. Like, again, how do you want, like, explain to me how you want to be both affectionate, also people to care about you, but then you also treated them like shit for something that they don't know about tech. All right, elaborate that to me further so I can understand, because I'm not. Let's go. I couldn't figure out the filters in OBS, but I'm having a blast in Apex, lol. Getting compressor, yeah, but like I know how to add them, but I don't know what to adjust them to. Like putting them in is fine, but I'm not sure what to put the numbers as, and I know I had to adjust them, but I'm not sure how to gauge the numbers to adjust. Well, you know what the end goal is, right? To be honest, I'm not sure, just so people aren't too soft or loud. Yes, that's the goal, to make quieter noises louder and louder voices quieter. Well, yeah, but I don't know how to move the numbers so they reach that. Compression. What do you normally do when you're at this point with figure out something out you don't understand yet? I tried Googling and it didn't make sense, since I either say I'll never know this mystery in life or I ask someone else. Would you mind helping me with filters if you get a moment? And this call that EvilToaster has started lasted for an hour. Lastly, I wanted to elaborate on something that's come to my attention through the creation of this document. I have never and would never take a romantic or sexual interest in Frog. I am a very affectionate person to all my friends, community, and people I meet. Terms of endearment are not unusual for me, and the affection I express is the same affection I express to everyone. The messages I have sent using positive terms are the same terms I use for everyone and could never be taken as anything beyond platonic, since it was well known to EvilToaster that I communicated to everyone this way unilaterally. Jeez, I don't know all these words. Throughout our entire history and every interaction, I have been nothing but purely platonic and tried to act in the most sincere way towards them. All I wanted for them was a genuine friendship where I could be supportive and kind towards them without anything more. A shower call was a regular occurrence between myself and my friends. I have a large shower where a part of it was always be dry. Thus, it is normal for me to be on call while showering and just being silly with how hard it is to hear one another and laugh about the echo. No cams were on. There was never anything lewd or sexual on my part. All of their suggestive comments at the time, I took a simple playfulness from someone who didn't know how to properly communicate affections, and I thought it was him trying to open up to me. It is absolutely appalling to me to see how he misconstrued our dynamic to others and how he suggested the possibilities of more with me. While treating me so coldly and horribly, he alluded to such a different dynamic to others. In hindsight, it is such a shame it took so much for me to distance myself from him and that I allowed him to treat me this way for as long as he did. In my last year of VTubing, I've come to respect myself far more and will never let this happen again. Through this document and sharing my experiences, I hope that others wouldn't be put through the experiences I was. I hope they can love themselves enough to know their worth and not be treated this way while trying to build such a one-sided friendship, quote unquote, while being sexualized, used for inflating egos, and demeaned. While these experiences are my own, I know many friends who have similar and grossly uncanny experiences with EvilToaster who weren't comfortable coming forward due to his influence. The two tweets above me are ones I already read, except for this one, which says, "Am I the only one who takes the online status on Discord seriously? I'm less likely to DM new peeps if they have that unless we've established a prior relationship, or friendship I should say." He responded to this tweet by saying, "One time I actually checked and no joke, less than 5% of VTubers in my friends list have online enabled. The status means nothing to me anymore. Crazy thing is, I still don't get DM'd ever, even with a green light and putting please DM me quote unquote in my status, so it doubly means nothing." Kaisa's Red Song 01 note. Hello, my name is Kaisa, otherwise known as Red Song 01. To most, I was an active Apex VTuber in the scene. To others, I am a villain that quote unquote sided with EvilToaster's abuser, and an experience he continues to share, which at this point has been proven several times false / mischaracterization of events plus my persona. I share my thoughts and screenshots not to take light from those with more severe recounts, but to supplement and validate the consistency of his actions when interacting with others, and primarily those of fan presentations. I did not have direct boundary events with Toaster, but I've witnessed how he spoke about others, misconstruing events and not being wrong, diagnosing others with ADHD, etc., and how he ignored my advice regarding said things. It wasn't until he realized I could not be manipulated / commanded to his will that he had all the issues with me, so, well, I didn't face the burn of his uncomfortable behavior. I did find my experience in the VTuber community directly affected by him. TLDR, too long didn't read because I did not drop someone he fell out with. Toaster branded me as someone who quote unquote sided with abuse / sympathizes with abusers, quote unquote. For a time, I had genuine anxiety when venturing into new VTubing spaces, and on occasion broke down under the weight. The idea of being distracted and my career stifled, killed because a person of Toaster's quote unquote high standing was heavily mischaracterizing me, damaged my mental. And I know he spoke about me because I had several people tell me they initially avoided me because of Toaster, while after I had broken ties with him. I'd like to reiterate that I had nothing to do with his event. The only thing I did wrong, quote unquote, was that I didn't do what he, quote unquote, asked at the drop of a hat. To conclude, Toaster hasn't been the most truthful, whether out of ignorance or malice, especially if it's for their own gains. They believe their thoughts and words stay true. Anything that doesn't align with them are stupid / false and aren't worth their time. Listen to what those affected have to say, believe their feelings of anxiety and pressure to be true, and support not only those that have spoken up about Toaster, but those that still fear what they could say should they speak against them. With the stale face emoji saying, "Sup, I am feeling conflicted about what to do tomorrow." Why? What's up? You're playing with blank stale face frog emoji saying, Why does that conflict with what do about tomorrow? Because I don't know if I'll be able to get that off my mind. Well, I'll be here either way. What? The way you sound is like you're not sure if you want to play or not tomorrow. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with it. I explain what went down with blank and I write like in full detail. Kinda, sorta. I know you mentioned like emotional manipulation or something, but I don't know right now about the whole deets. Just you and blank have cut ties and all. Like blank been really strong-headed, abusive, like emotionally and verbally towards us both, still frog emoji. Pretty ironic for him to say that they're abusive emotionally when the whole document has already elaborated that he is one. I also want to apologize that one of my grandma's neighbors is using the weed whacker while I'm recording this. He says, "I explained how she was abusive before, but I am not currently certain how seriously you took me then. I read back on what you told me since I remember you typed part of it out, and I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I think what would happen was that I took it as y'all just having specific yet key differences that ultimately tumbled out in the worst possible way. And I do take you seriously. I may not understand the full extent of it, but your feelings and experiences are valid. So again, I apologize if it doesn't seem like I'm acknowledging that. Before, when you told me that you cut ties with Blink, I didn't realize you were asking me to do the same, so I'm kinda processing what do is all. But like, don't take that as me taking sides, because to be honest, I don't know if this is really something I can take sides on you, you know? Since I wasn't involved in any of this. As for stuff I can speak on though, I know you mentioned that you're worried about there being safe spaces for you when she's around. And I can promise that I'll do my best to protect your space in your corner, okay? Even if she passes by and all that. Kaisa, yes, hello? We're gonna have to talk about this eventually. We can talk about it now if you like, or after stream, whatever works. I'm here to listen. Assuming we're still playing tonight, and if we're not, then I understand too. You're called here. I'll need more time to collect thoughts, so another time, if I stream, I'll make some other plans, but I can't make this collab. Okay, I'll be here. Hello, checking in. Are you ready to talk? What do you want to talk about? I'm following up on this. Alright, I can try. Okay, I am here. To give you the full context of why this is so affecting, I also want to reiterate quickly how things were before I got into this circle of friends. I'm pretty sure I went in depth about it with you multiple times, but I did not have many friends or was included in friend circles very often in life, and even more rarely were those friends and circles made up of women. And prior to VTubing, I basically was not allowed to have women as friends in my previous relationship, therefore I had to completely rebuild my perception of myself because I had no close friends which with to understand myself through. Enter the VTubing era, and the first three major new friends I made were you, Blank, and Nia, the people I would talk to every day and learn about. You three were the foundation of my new perception of friendships and socializing and determining what about myself as a person is valuable and acceptable on a fundamental level, because I had nothing to go on going into this. Therefore, when people like you three express that you value me and feel that I'm important, I have no frame of reference for just much that means, so naturally I had to take it at face value. I learned then that I was valued by my friends and that I was important. So from then on, the foundation of how I saw myself was based on that, because I knew I was valued by people who to me seemed like the most amazing people I'd ever know. I wasn't afraid to be social and to be around people, and I feel like it was okay for me to be here finally. That paragraph up there is what I feel is being threatened when this situation comes into play, because I took the appraisal of importance at face value. I then referenced that with what I believe it means to appreciate an important friend. I think about what I would do for them. So here in this situation, completely putting aside for now the fact that one of those important pillars of my new self-perception ended up being manipulative and abusive. Now another one of those pillars, you, sees that I was threatened as badly as I was and sees this more as a problem to contain rather than a problem to solve. Because in my frame of reference, if someone did this to one of my friends, that abusive friend would not hear the end of it from me until they either left the circle entirely or somehow managed to find some way to make amends if that was even considered an option by the person they abused. If that ideal, you surely you can understand how your approach unsettles me. When I first told you about it, it seemed nothing actually came of it, and you and Blank continue to relate. Thus, this issue now where I'm questioning why. Then, when I try to explain this discomfort again, you tell me that when I first told you, you didn't consider it as serious as it was for me, which then it just makes you question how seriously I'm being perceived in the first place when I tell someone I was being abused. So the double serving of shaking the fundamental ideas that gave me the social freedom to make friends and feel comfortable around people, for both being shown that me stating that I was hurt was not seen as serious, and also being shown that I was hurt by someone, their continued inclusion in the circle is valued higher than my safety and comfort within the circle, is doing a lot of damage for my own self-perception and has me questioning who my friends are and who I can trust. If Kaisa said she loves me and sees me as an important friend, but didn't take any serious action after being told I was hurt by her friend, as valuing said abuser's comfort over my own comfort, then what do those words and sentiments mean for me? Do I need to change my frame of reference? Do I need to not accept love? That's the situation I'm in right now when I think about this. It has already affected me because I was nearly breaking down over these thoughts during a collab with Zen and Nia the other day. Thankfully today was fine. Also, I like to think it's implied, but in case it isn't, I'm not putting blame on you for me having any of those pre-existing conditions, resolving self-perception, or the fact that you, likely unknowingly, unless I was clearer than I think I was at the time, were playing such an important role in that. I did tell you you were important in this regard, but I likely did not convey the depth of it like I did not, presumably, so all of that isn't me trying to tell you like you should have done something different because I was on some way you couldn't have understood at the time. Which also was because I myself didn't realize that importance at the time either. I was just floating. Kaisa did respond to this, saying, "Since you took the time to reiterate your feelings and thought processes going into all of this, let me go ahead and review mine slash basically confirm slash deny things you have stated. I remember that you said entering the VTubing scene and making the friends you did was beneficial to you and your growth. I remember you stating that you came from a rough background prior, and I remember expressing how happy I was for you to find people that give you the love and validation you deserve. Because you do deserve that. I'll be one of the first to tell you and even drill that into you, you are deserving of love. I, however, do not remember you going quote unquote in depth into how blank abused you. Like I mentioned in our previous conversation, I looked up our chat log and reread what you told me. In that, you never gave me past examples, you just told me how you viewed her values and thought processes, and one example of her pressuring you to transition. Now I understand why you were rightfully angered and hurt that she constantly pressured you like that. However, at no level, or at least of my personal ones of reasoning, is the fact of pressuring you considered abuse to me. It is conflict, yes, but not abuse, and I place on incredibly high value on understanding what is and isn't abuse and where it is getting overstated, which is what I felt you did here. I understand this isn't an invitation nor demand to go in depth. I'm not asking to pry into your trauma. What hurts you, and I respect that. All I'm saying is that based on what you have shared with me, it did not read as abuse to me, that is all. So here's what unsettles me about all of this. I was never involved in what went down between you and Blank. I am so completely removed from it. Even if I am friends with the both of you, that does not automatically involve me. I was never there for the fights you guys had, nor the treatment you endured. Was it hurtful and traumatic for you? Yes, and I get that completely. I respect and validate your hurt, as I've said before. But why are you trying to drag me into this? Because the only quote-unquote indication I have of her being abusive is just your word of mouth. And I need you to understand that this next statement, the level of trust I have in you, I have in other people. So I can't just cut ties with someone on word alone, even if I am friends with said person. Because again, I am friends with the both of you, and those friendships were based and built up over separate experiences. To cut someone off based on what someone else said would be in disrespect to my own thoughts, feelings, and personal experiences. You think this is an issue of you being devalued or disrespected, but I think it's the other way around, and that you're letting your hurt not just speak for you, but for everyone else. But you can't just push your feelings and personal experiences onto others. You can't just generalize one experience to speak for all of them just because something didn't work out for you. It didn't give you the right to speak for others or tell them how to act or think, and that's where I have to draw the line, because you can't do that, Toaster. You can't just tell others how to act based on your own experiences. Also, I just want to say it's wild as hell that you're saying I am valuing said abuser's comfort over your own comfort and not caring about you enough, etc. If I didn't care and give as much of a shit about you as I do you think I'd have said that I protect your space? Or that I'd be sitting here for 2 to 3 hours trying to articulate why I acted the way I did? I try to explain why your line of reasoning is problematic and straight up hurtful, because I want you to know that I wouldn't have bothered to type all of this up if I truly didn't care about you, LMAO. I understand you're hurt more with me if I continue to try to put y'all in the same room or something, but I'm not. I'm essentially stating already that I respect your boundaries and will protect my space with you even if Blank were to come around. Hell, I see no reason for her to come around to begin with. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, telling someone to drop a person based on zero receipts is outrageous and even borderline manipulative. Any questions? Response? Well, seeing as you're not giving any indication that you intend to continue this conversation, I'll be taking my leave here. Take care, Toaster. I wish you the best. And before you spiral about this, if you even still care about what I have to say, I'm not exiting this friendship because I'm consoling Blank or whatever else you tell yourself to shift the blame. I'm exiting this because I no longer wish to put up with this behavior and how you're treating me. I also no longer wish to see how you're treating those you consider close to you. And in case anyone hasn't said this to you yet, then I unfortunately be the first. No one who matters at least treats you differently based on your presented male gender, quote unquote. They act different because you refuse to respect where everyone's personal boundaries lie. You consistently ignore everyone's opinions and viewpoints if they do not match with your own. And rather than listen, you prioritize vouching how much yours is right, even if you're in the right or just different. You also have this tendency where you think you have everyone figured out and you let your assumptions hold true true when really it's up to the person how they want to act or speak around you or others. You respect everyone until they hurt you or aren't aligned with you, and then all that respect for their views and thoughts go out the window because you let that pain blind you from realizing that people are people with their own thoughts, their own boundaries, their own viewpoints. And just because it's different, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Morality is a lot grayer than you make it out to be. And until you realize that the sort of behavior is harmful, then I don't see any reason to put up with it. Genuinely, I'm sorry. And again, I'm not saying this just to blindly attack a character or the like. I tell you this because at the end of the day, I care. And as a friend that I cared, I want to bring it to your attention so that maybe one day you'll come to that realization. Rather than have everyone you thought was close to you slowly distance themselves one by one because they don't have the heart nor energy to tell you like I did now. Straight up flambéed him. All right, like he says that he feels oppressed and just put out the whole receipt, word after word, bar after bar, like no crumbs on him. All right, and it's again ironic for him to say that he's being abused, yet he's the one that's being abusive, and she's know this. All right, and since that she has become like keeping it real about this, keeping it real about how she felt being with Toaster. It's more of him to realize that he's the one at fault, but as 2 years go by, he still doesn't think that he is the problem. So on this note, I think Kaiser says something incredibly important here and would like to highlight it for those reading. No one who matters at least treats you differently because on your presented male gender. They act differently because you refuse to respect where everyone's personal boundaries lie. I hope that this document acts as evidence to this and Toaster finally realizes why people find him problematic and reflects to the point where he can stop disrespecting people and preying on women within the space. And on 2's experience, the below screenshots are another instance in which Toaster pushed someone's boundaries. Anon 2 was part of a friend group which included Toaster and friend, except they came into disagreement with each other and were not on speaking terms. At this time, Anon 2 didn't feel the need to take sides. Toaster knew that they were in contact with each other and knew that the friend would visit Anon 2's streams and try to control that aspect. Then you tell her not to come. I tried not to shout her out, gonna talk to her against, but you told her not to come, right? Like, what did you say exactly? Tried to keep it civil, but I guess her something happened. What? No, what did you tell her before stream? To keep it civil and give some space, you're gonna talk to her again about not coming in when you're here. Sorry, Toasty. What? You told me you told her not to come. Did you just not? Yeah, I'm gonna talk to her if it was communicated properly though. Worried I'm bad at the communication part. What did you say exactly to her? I called her. The red light says controlling who comes to their stream. He says, did you say the words do not come into stream? And told her the same thing. Yeah, just to respect each other and be civil too. But you told her not to show up at all, right? I did say to just avoid the stream when you're in. So then she's just completely disrespected to you. That's why I'm gonna talk to her. I hope you can learn to not be too kind for your own good because that was unacceptable of her. It's okay. We'll talk to her, Toaster. I understand. Sorry it happened though. You did your part. I mean, I guess you could have banned her, but I wasn't expecting you to do that or anything. Tell them what they to do and how to feel. Again, the irony still shows that he's telling her to not be too kind for your own good when really he's done the same thing but in a manipulative manner. Okay, it's a lot worse than what he is trying to tell her not to do. Should have been as easy as just asking and her respecting the boundary. If you said clearly to avoid the stream and not chat when I'm in and she said okay, then she very clearly just did that on purpose. She knows why she was asked not to chat. She just doesn't give a shit. I would be fucking furious if I were you, more specifically if I was in your position. Well, again, we'll talk to her with the shock emoji. If she's not participating and will be timed out in chat for the duration of the stream, then I can make it happen, and I should state that even that is a compromise. And if blank in my event, then I don't know if I'll be capable of participating in a way where I will be able to celebrate properly and wouldn't want to risk showing up and it going south like last collab. But I did say take measures to make sure it wouldn't for the time being, and you're not okay with meeting up offline even for just a friend's birthday because you think it's hiding. It would feel very awkward to know that blank got to play with you on stream for your celebration and had to be put away to play. Literally. He wants these VTubers that he's grown a bond with all to himself, alright? This is an example of a control freak. Now, I almost forgot what the word was, but good thing I remembered it while I'm recording this video. And then again, I just don't understand. Like, why do you want her streaming by herself with no one accompanying, even if she allowed them to do so? You're not the boss. Okay, you're not her father, mother, or any parental guardian, okay? Leave her make her own decisions. You aren't being put away. You're invited to play on stream and refuse. I want to celebrate with you and everyone else and my community who loves you too. Okay, you guys will literally be in different time slots if it happens. Are you okay with what she did and how she treated me? This is between you guys. Please stop treating my birthday event like a turf war. I'm already really accommodating. Even more so to you, I haven't talked to anyone else right now about it. There is more backstory to Anon 2's experiences with EvilToaster, and it took me almost 2 years of distancing and healing, and they honestly were surprised to know that they weren't the only one to have these types of conversations with him, mostly due to the fact that they were terrified of what EvilToaster connections could do due to Anon 2 being a small VTuber. Well, I'll listen along. Blank, you're autistic as heck. The Anonymous says, no. This is another experience where Toaster pushed an autism diagnosis on someone who wanted nothing to do with one and knows they are not autistic. Sorry that this is really close, but I had to put it closer so I could see the message being shown here. Anon 3's experience. Unfortunately, this person was unable to get photo evidence, but they do say, oh yeah, I was a little weirded out by him at some point. If we can keep this anonymous, this is my side of the story, and I believe probably many felt the same way. I felt guilt-tripped into playing and hanging out with them, especially when they confronted me for not including them in a collab and such. This is not far-fetched considering everything else in this document where Toaster continuously pushes people, guilt-trips them, and blames them for not accommodating him. We're on the second to last part of the document with Sheffy's experience. Sheffy hosted a collab, and one of the people invited was EvilToaster. EvilToaster started the collab by putting off one of the people there, as evident below. The Anonymous says, I don't know them personally, but we went through blank. What happened? The vibes were a little off, but I wasn't sure if I was misinterpreting it. Nah, they devs were. He was like basically trying to humiliate me, so I thought I'd tell you what happened so you can avoid him. I stopped talking to that last half because I was crying the whole time. What, really? Oh my god, Ash, I'm so sorry. That's so shitty. It's okay. Yeah, I felt weird because he asked for a fun fact. I said I was allergic to fruit and he said that wasn't very fun. And I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't sure what to say or how to react. As for what Sheffy personally experienced, you can listen to Sheffy's experience here. Sheffy makes a joke about short people being psychotic specifically because someone sent her a news broadcast with a study saying so. And it was directed towards Kelly, her friend. This is a joke that's common between the two, but also common for both of their communities. Even Kelly's mod, Jeff, comments on Kelly's height and says she is psychotic, so it's obviously accepted by both Kelly and her community. It's good that Sheffy meant no disrespect by saying this joke, and no disrespect was taken except for by Toaster. So you're telling me that this uncouth bastard was offended of a short people joke and took it literally, thinking that he is the victim to it? Man, get a grip. Whether or not the joke was not Toaster's cup of tea is the fact that he continues to press Sheffy after the joke's already passed. This is live on multiple people streaming. The person this joke is addressed to is laughing, and while Toaster believes Sheffy's the one laughing, is actually Kelly. The person the joke involves thinks it's funny and no one else seems to have a problem. But if Toaster felt the need to police Sheffy's humor, he could have done so after the collab in private. Instead, he humiliated her in front of numerous people. The other thing to note is that Sheffy stops joking around around almost immediately once she realizes Toaster is actually upset. At first, she was confused because Toaster wasn't actually telling her to stop. He just said hello, which can mean anything. He says, why are you sharing that? With a slight chuckle. So Sheffy thinks he's genuinely asking and joking around. She says, because it's true. After this, it's clear Toaster is upset. The person laughing is Kelly, but Toaster continues to press Sheffy even though it's been a minute since the joke's even been made. Most of Enda's jokes are around the VTuber community, which Toaster has commented on before to me. I used to tweet opinions more, but it's more difficult in this space, especially since a lot of my opinions would easily be seen as an attack on other people in the scene, like the rampant ableism in VTuber humor, for example. What kind of humor? Like, what specifically is common to say? That's a chicken. Things like making jokes about PTSD, OCD, etc. I see people make schizo jokes or jokes about hearing voices. Triggered humor, obviously, is very, very common in the scene and kind of just observed as degenerate humor. Listen, everybody makes jokes about mental illness. It's not just VTubers, it's everyone. Doesn't matter their race, their background, what they identify as, or what they're doing in their life as a career, they do. okay? They make something bad and be self-aware about it as a joke for other people to laugh, all right? Laughter is the best medicine, and that's how we cope. We make fun of ourselves for something traumatic that's happened, or we're fighting our demons, and it's something that we could relate but also laugh at. And for you to just like talk to your VTuber friends and then it's not okay, I mean, at that point, you just have a sensitive like limit of humor that can only be okay and cannot be okay at a certain standpoint that you go by just shows that I feel like you really shouldn't be part of any VTuber collab, okay? Because the jokes are gonna happen, whether expected or unexpected, and that's just how it is. You either deal with it or shut the fuck up. It's interesting that he doesn't want to bring this up publicly because he knows it could be seen as an attack to a good portion of the VTuber community. Yeah, but has no problem publicly humiliating a smaller streamer live. Despite this, Sheffy apologized immediately during the collab. These are the messages with Sheffy saying, "Hey, I'm sorry I wasn't trying to make you feel weird or anything. I didn't know you didn't like mental health related jokes, and it just took me a moment to understand what was the issue. No one likes mental health related jokes. I added you in chat earlier about the PTSD jokes too. Yeah, sorry, I didn't fully understand it at first, and that's my bad. I'm just used to different humor with others, but I am really sorry." EvilToaster says, "You should really be concerned about those others," with the wide face of the frog emoji. Sheffy immediately apologized to Toaster, who did not accept the apology, and took the opportunity to question her friend group as well. It says a lot about Sheffy to apologize to someone who's upset about a joke that wasn't directed at them and also held no ill intent. It's funny that he brings up her friend group when they share mutual friends with the same humor, but those friends are in a higher position of power due to their larger following. So I guess that's why Toaster never said anything about them making similar / the same jokes as Sheffy did. Yeah, it's past my bedtime since he was late, then we started even later. Ah, okay, sorry, it's alright. You okay? No. What's up? Sleepy? I can't hold back my tears. No. Sorry, I meant to say Ash. My bad. I feel so awful right now. No, BBG. I don't know what that means. Is it because of what Toaster said or something else? Yeah, I want to leave, but I'm host. I'm just trying to finish already. This had an effect on Sheffy, where in the moment she wanted to leave her own collab and was crying while streaming. But even more than that, she suffered from self-doubt and was nervous to reach out to anyone in the VTuber scene after dealing with this so publicly. It's just a joke. Like, why is he so offended for his own sake? Like, he's only offended for himself, making her feel bad and everybody else feel awkward. And with the conclusion, I am sorry that this document was necessary. I've held onto so much Toaster has personally done to me that it's not even included in this document because regardless of how Toaster has hurt me on a personal level, it is much more important to disclose how he continues to disrespect women's boundaries within the space, controls people, and uses his status with the community to continuously get away with things. I held onto this for about 2 years, but I realized that if Toaster can ignore public outrage, he will always ignore private outrage. The hope for this document is that those reading it who have negative experiences with Toaster that might be too scared to finally know at least some people are speaking out about him, is to reassure those people that no, you aren't overthinking this. He does invade personal boundaries, he is controlling, and he is manipulative. He is creepy towards women, especially those who do not have a platform similar to his own. Above all, this behavior is incredibly recent and is documented up until last month. I hope Toaster can understand that when multiple friends parts ways with you, when groups of people avoid you, it is because you are the problem. No one is out to get you because XYZ said so. You may talk about people and warn others away from them, but no, Boogeyman is keeping people from talking to you, collabing with you, or anything of the sort. It is not because you are perceived as a man, but because you disrespected people's boundaries time and time again until their only option is to distance. I don't believe Toaster will apologize. I don't even know if this document will provoke any, in my opinion, necessary repercussions, but I do know that I and many others have spoken their truth and tried our best to get him to realize his mistakes and face his behavior going forward, or at least console the people who have been doubting themselves with their experiences. I thank everyone who's come forward and helped me create this document, and I thank people who could not speak out in concern for their safety, but told me personally their stories and helped me get a better picture of what's been going on behind the scenes these past 3 years. And that is the end of the document. Now, sure, it may be 59 pages. It took me like, what, 4 or 5 days to make this video. I've learned so much about who this EvilToaster person is, not just a Twitch ambassador, but also a master manipulator. This person knows how to take advantage of people who are easily vulnerable when it comes to pushing boundaries, and overall cannot respect people's privacy or their space when it comes to collaboration in public. All right. And he has this way to press somebody regardless of who they are, but they can't depending on the limit of the following or how relevant they are in the VTubing space. And not only is this dangerous, but also like maddening, but it's more of how we should take account that even if you do or do not know who this EvilToaster is, now you do in the most unfortunate way possible. Okay. I mean, sure, his profile picture may look pretty funny and goofy. He may sound like a genuine person to talk to. But given with this document, it tells a whole different side that we didn't know, that I didn't know either. Okay. Even though the tweet of this document that was posted by Sierra was on August 22nd, and it is currently September 12th, okay, almost a month since this document has been out. Now, I don't know if Toaster did respond. That's going to be a separate video for today because this is so much footage, okay? Like, this is an hour and some minutes long. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I'll check once I'm done editing this video. If you do have any more comments or have personal experiences that you feel brave to share or do not want to share publicly, it's okay, all right? But now you are well aware and you're not going crazy, okay? EvilToaster is not a person you should trust. But with all that aside, that's gonna be it for today's video. This is a really long one, okay? I know it is gonna be because it was 59 pages of the document, and I read every single one of them. All right. I don't think I deserve like any praise or anything. This is more of a way to spread awareness of who this person is, and also to make a video about it because I thought it was a pretty interesting video to talk about and something that I didn't know until now. With all that being said, I'll be seeing you all later with this enormously long video that maybe I might not upload, but that depends. This is Wolf Gray. Peace.